Changes of energy sources over time. In this video, I'll be discussing the different types of energy sources that has changed over time. So let's look at the first few: wood, domesticated animals, wind and water, coal, coal gas, electricity, fuel oils, and nuclear energy. Wood. How it was used? Well, it began with using as a heat product to keep people warm and to cook food, but also to harden weapons. But its social impacts were to create people in colder climates with the flexibility and availability of temperature control, which made people live longer. It made them also to cook their food, to store them longer, and then this led to an increased brain size due to the quality of food, which then increased the human population. So domesticated animals, how it was used: mainly to carry loads, to turn grindstones, and to transport goods to more distances and longer distances to create trade and barter amongst different regions around the world. So the social impacts are: more food could be produced through trade, excess food could be bartered for other goods and services. Not everyone was involved in this food process, which meant that there was greater productivity, which led to production. Farms then developed, towns developed as farmers because they had to meet the trade, and this increased the population even further due to quality of food, production, communities, and engagement with other communities. Wind and water. So wind and water were mainly used to turn windmills and also to power our sailing boats to do fishing and like extracurricular activities such as expeditions and travel. So the social impacts of that meant that the population near waterways increased. The commerce between rivers and towns then further increased because of that flexibility of transport. Food production then increased due to trade, which meant that towns near waters increased, and you can see that with Australia's geographical population around coastlines, which led to a population increase and growth in industry. So coal, how it was used? Well, it was used before 1000 BC, used more as a wood supply near large towns as it decreased, which meant that a high energy content was used compared to wood, which was very productive in terms of keeping us technological advances at that time, which led to the steam engine, the industrial age, power stations later. So this gave us a better quality of life, which meant that populations migrated from farms to cities for work opportunities, factories formed, cities developed, and the population exploded, which enabled us to create manufacturing and industry, such as producing steel. However, the limitations of this was it did increase our air pollution. Coal gas, which is very similar to coal. However, it was used as heating and lighting in houses. And it was the first source of street lights in major cities, including Australia. The social impacts of coal gas was it improved living conditions. It made cooking much easier than wooden stoves or wood stoves. It increased our social activities at night, and that led to night work in factories possible because of that lighting. That meant that population increased due to economy improving, purchasing healthcare, purchasing many other things to improve our quality of life, such as quality of food. This meant that there was cheaper goods for consumers, which then led to us improving technology over time, which has then led us to the use of electricity. By burning coal and other fossil fuels, it gives us electricity, which is what we heavily rely on today. So it is more an efficient source of heat and light. However, we use a high use of fossil fuels, which is damaging our ecosystems and environment, and in turn affecting the earth. So we need to look at the social impacts of this. There's been a huge impact on factory production and labour needs. Motors and generators developed. There was more availability of electricity in remote locations due to its long distance use, which meant that cities grew, populations increased, including in rural areas. So this huge growth in technology associated with electrical industry gave us appliances, power tools, telecommunication, which we heavily rely on today for our quality of life and our function of life. Fossil fuels. You might have known this as petrol and diesel, but these are liquid fuels that are being developed and extracted as a resource. So social impacts led us to create long distance travel, use of cars, trucks, trains and so on. The populations are now more mobile than ever before. The atmospheric pollution further increased, which is a very concerning issue in recent times. Its technological growth was huge, giving us greater transport, giving us flexibility, which meant that cities continued to grow even further and populations exploded. And if you're wondering why populations exploded, it's because people had access to hospitals in cities from rural areas, which was key, but also doctors could also fly to rural areas. So that was something that was never done before, and it was time consuming, which meant that it improved the quality of life. Not only did it improve the quality of life, but it improved our trade and travel, which led to us exploring the world with boats and planes, which led us to increase in our globalization around the world. So nuclear energy, how it was used? Well, from nuclear transformation reactors releasing chemical energy in atoms, creating energy, which is what we don't use in Australia. However, it's been a topical subject, but its social impacts in other countries they've been expensive to build power stations, but they've been used as a political tool as a sign of wealth and innovation. Nuclear waste as a social and medical issue, limited availability with its terms of production and in terms of how many nuclear power plants there are. There's been a concern of nuclear weapons, and that's been heavily linked in more recent times. But its major advances in what Australia leads in is its advantages in medical physics, which has improved life expectancy. And it's something that we're in the forefront of our technology. So that summarizes the changes of energy sources over time. This is a very brief video to construct an idea on how we have developed into this more sophisticated society.